people, how are you doing? I hope you are doing fine at your home. This is Tana Mani and heartiest welcome to our channel Art of Literature. So today I am going to discuss on the topic The Rape of the Lock, which was written by Alexander Pope. Pope was an English poet, critic and satirist of the English Augustan period. He was born in 21st May 1688 and died in 30th May 1744. He was best known for his satirical and discursive poetries including The Rape of the Lock, The Dunciad and an essay on criticism. Pope was considered a master of heroic couplets. His well-known mock heroic epic, The Rape of the Lock, was first published in 1712 with 2 cantos and later expanded into the 5 cantos in 1714 and the final edition was in 1717. It was dedicated to John Caryll. So, it was based on a family quarrel between the Peters and Fermors, when the 7th Lord Peter cut the lock of Miss Arabella Fermor's hair. So, Mr. Caryll was the mutual relative of the lady and Lord. He went to the Pope and requested him to write on this comically, and then they can be friends again. But later Arabella files report against Pope and said that why did you use my name without taking my permission, and my issue to make it public, who gives you the right? Later, Pope wrote a letter to apologize her. After the Fermor gave him permission, then he wrote another 3 cantos, which was written in 1714 and the later 1717. So, the Lord Baron, he is a real life Lord Peter. Pope has welcomed him in the opening lines. Resolved to win, he meditates the way by force, to ravish by fraud, to betray. And the second Belinda, real life Arabella Fermor. And yes, one thing more, in 1717's edition, Pope added a new character in the story named Clarissa, which is known as the mouthpiece of Pope. So yes, I have must cleared well that in Pope's poem, Belinda is based on the historical Arabella's Fermor and the Baron is the pseudonym for the historical Robert Lord Peter. So, the action of the poem begins with the rising sun awakening the residents of wealthy household, though everyone including the lap dogs has risen, but Belinda remains asleep. She dreams of a handsome youth who informs her that she is protected by 1,000 bright inhabitants of air spirits that were once human women, who now protects virgins. Belinda's guardian sylph is Errol and her lapdog is named as Shock. So basically this is the sylph who explains her that a sylph is the guardian of a young and beautiful virgins meant to be protecting her chastity, कि जहाँ पर भी जाएंगे उसके साथ रहेंगे, उसको protect करेंगे, like everywhere and every time. So the sylph explains in her dreams that his name is Errol and he has consulted the stars and seen that some disaster is close at hand. He isn't sure exactly what form this will take, but he warns Belinda that she has to beware of man. So the Shock decided that Belinda has been sleeping for too long, so he decided to wake her up. Then she started reading some love letters and forgets everything whatever Ariel tells about the disaster. Scene shifts to her dressing routine with the help of Sylphs and Betty. She begins the elaborate process of dressing and grooming herself. Betty is figured as a pagan priestess, while Belinda herself is the goddess. Like, this description of Belinda's dressing routine in epic poetry is having uh, the hero is dressed in his armor. Transforming the armor scene into a dressing scene emphasizes how low the stakes are here. Like, seriously, she isn't preparing herself for war but to socialize her. Now Belinda needs a whole slew of items to get herself ready for the day. अब उसको सुंदर भी दिखना है. अब उसको क्या क्या चाहिए? इंडियाज ग्लोइंग जेम्स, all Arabia, turtles, elephant in the form of combs, puffs, powders, patches, Bibles, etc. etc. ये सब उसको चाहिए for preparing herself or get ready for the day. And the sylphs are crucially arranging everything very carefully. And this canto number 1 is completed here. Now let's move further to the canto number 2. So the most epic poem include a sea voyage. So Belinda is traveling by boat, emphasizing her role as a parody of an epic hero. Like, exaggerating का हद देखो. She is wearing a bejeweled cross, which is so sparkling that even Jews and infidels would want to kiss it. Like, so much attracted. She smiles at everyone and her eyes are luminous, bright as the sun. Belinda's hair, to the destruction of mankind, styled into 2 beautiful curls. Here Pope once again appears to suggest that there might be something liberating about Belinda's vanity. Her hair has the power to make slaves of the men, who depicting her curls as a prisons of suitors. And the Baron is one such man that he resolves to take one lock either through trickery or by force. Earlier that day, before the sun rose, the Baron prayed to love for success in gaining his prize by building a pyre out of various objects associated with love, garters, gloves and love letters. So here is a word pyre, Pyre. Pyre means were normally built for funerary purposes, right? But here the Baron is using his pyre to burn trivial items like garters and gloves in order to pray to the god love. Okay, so back on the boat, everything seems to be going perfectly and everyone is happy except Ariel, who is still troubled by the idea that something is going to happen. So that what he does, Ariel army banata hai sylphs ki, army of sylphs in a different forms and dresses. Like, Ariel dresses them calling out, "Ye sylphs and sylphids, to your chief give ear. Face fairies, Jenny elves and demons here." So this is the quotation, you have to remember it. So here Pope echoes Milton, mimicking the voice of God himself, who calls out to the angels here. He then continues by enumerating all the different roles, all the different roles of spirits can have. Like, some guide the planets, other create the weather. Sylph's role in guarding the beautiful. Ariel terribly worried about Belinda's virginity or heart. To protect Belinda, Ariel assigns various sylphs in different tasks. Like, Zephyrita will look after her fan, Brillante earrings, Momentilla watch, Crispissa lock, and Ariel will look after her shock. 50 sylphs will look after Belinda's petticoat. Then Ariel completes his speech by explaining that should anyone fail to look after their charge, they shall be severely punished. So this was the canto number 2 which I have completed here, and let's go ahead now without hindrance. Canto number 3. So now the boat arrives at Hampton Court. The ladies and gentlemen were enjoying the pleasures of a day, namely gossiping. So later the lunch started. पहले seniors जाते हैं, like judges and the senior ones, to eat. Later juniors. Now Belinda sits down to a game of ombre with the gentlemen to decide their doom and arranges her card. So the word doom continues Pop's pattern of treating the events at court with exaggerated seriousness of comic effect. Things going well in the beginning as she plays her strongest cards. Like her first card was Spadillo, and then second card the Manilo. Just as successful, but the third card the Basto, less successful, and only gains one trump card and one plebeian card. Then she plays King of Spades, thus for Belinda is winning. Then the Baron begins to dominate the game. Now he is here. He even wins Belinda's Queen of Hearts. She fears that she is about to lose. However, he plays his ace, and to his surprise, she plays the Kings of Heart, meaning she wins. So she was celebrating her success, and obviously Baron को अच्छा नहीं लग रहा because he lost. So then coffee is served to him, and the stream था जो steam होती है head to the Baron's brain and reminds him of his plan to steal Belinda's lock. Even narrative voice wishes he would stop before it's too late and urges him to think of Silas' fate. So Silas' fate once again comically compares the classical literature here. Scylla was changed into a bird forever after she plucked one of her father's hair, a magical hair on which his power depended. So just after that moment, Clarissa pulls out a pair of scissors and offers them to the Baron. And Pop compares the Baron with an honorable knight. Like seriously, like he is just insulting him, while Baron's own self-serving form of masculinity, on the other hand, knight's brave service on behalf of others. The Baron moves to chop off the lock. Suddenly all the sylphs hurry to Belinda's neck, hair, twist her earrings 3 times to get her attention. But she didn't pay attention towards the sylph signs, which resigns her to the loss of lock. So this is how she lost her lock, and the Baron snips it off. Then Belinda cries out in horror, while the Baron shouts out his victory. Look at the man, masculinity. Belinda is still quite upset. The comparison between Belinda's melodramatic despair and the despair of people has much greater suffering than a bad haircut. Silliness of what's going on. In this moment, Sylphs leaves her. So the canto number 3 is also completed here, and now let me tell you one thing, guys. The strategy of Pop's mock epic is not to mock the form itself, but to mock his society, in its very failure to rise to epic standards, exposing its pettiness by casting it against the grandeur of the traditional epic subjects and the bravery of epic heroes. Pope's mock heroic treatment underscores the ridiculousness of a society in which values have lost all proportions and the trivial is handled with the gravity and solemnity that ought to be accorded to truly important issues. The poem is a reflection of artificial and hollow life of 18th century society. So guys, I have completed 3 cantos here, and the remaining 2 cantos I will tell you in the next video. So till then, stay connected with us. I hope you might like my video, and don't forget to subscribe our channel and do like and comment to boost our confidence so that we will provide you more videos. Thank you so much.